Okay, so you've got here actual UK economic growth over the last sort of 70 years. Yeah. So the blue line is the level of beer in the economy, is the level of actual growth. The red line kind of reflects roughly, an increase in the size of the glass. Yeah, so it's showing the extent to which our potential can grow. So we can see that sometimes the economy is growing faster than its potential. That's okay as long as you have some spare capacity, but it can start to cause rising prices. We'll come back to that. What you can see is if we look at the kind of period up until about 1970, up until that point, sometimes the economy is growing faster and sometimes the economy is growing slower. So we can see here, kind of about 52, 53, kind of 59, 60. We've got an economy that's growing, sometimes at 5-6% a year. That's very, very fast. At other times, the economy is growing more slowly. It's only growing sort of 1 or 2% a year. But throughout this period, the economy, GDP is rising. Sometimes it's rising faster, sometimes it's rising more slowly. And it's this type of thing that led Harold Macmillan in the late 1950s to say that most of our people have never had it so good. You can contrast that early period where the economy is continually expanding with the 1970s. So here we have 50s, 60s, here we have 1970s. What you can see here is periods of massive disruption, major recession. So recession, we said before, if you look at that zero line there, as long as the blue line is above that, GDP is rising. But here we have a fall in GDP, another fall in GDP. Throughout the 1970s then, you could almost call that a lost decade. So hence, that created major difficulties, for politicians during that period. You then have all the way through, from 1979, to 1997, a period of kind of Conservative Party dominance. And we can see that, from the early 1980s, the economy grows very, very quickly. And then there's this kind of disaster, kind of around, kind of 1990, 1991. And then finally, you've got 1997 onwards, and you've got the Blair government, again, in which growth is pretty stable until the financial crisis. So it's important to think about how these changes in GDP are coming about and how that's going to impact on politicians and the decisions that they're making at that point. This period here, again, going back to the 1950s and 1960s, you'll study this fairly shortly, and it's a period sometimes known as stop-and-go policies. And this was this attempt to try to match the actual growth of the economy, to its, these kind of blue lines, to its potential. And as you can see, governments weren't necessarily that great at controlling the economy. Sometimes they allowed it to expand too fast, which meant that they then had to slow it down subsequently. But that's something that you'll come on to study.